Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited today. You guys know me. This is Scott Sullivan. I'm also known as Sales with Sully. I get the opportunity from time to time to talk to some of the most fascinating, fantastic people in the solar industry, and today is no exception. I have been working with a brand new company called Operant Networks, and today we have Randy King with us. Randy, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about Operant Networks, and what is it that you guys are doing? Because you're just now coming out of stealth mode, and we're going to be seeing you at SPI. So tell us a little bit about Operant Networks.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Scott. Yep. So Operant Networks is kind of our second foray into the space of solar. A lot of us were in a company previously called Solmetric, which built test and measurement stuff for the solar industry, and we made a lot of friends and connections that way. But if I think back a little before that, one of the things that was in my head about talking today was to talk about how I came out of grad school a long time ago, as you can tell from the video, but my original research area was solar energy. And so this was back in the 80s, if you can believe it. And I came out and there was no solar industry at all. I mean, it was ridiculous. Solar panels themselves cost $20 a watt and they put them on spacecraft. So instead of working in the solar industry like I thought, I took a little detour and I spent 20 years at Hewlett Packard. And I pivoted to working on fiber optics, which was like just coming into the 90s, was the big new technology that was driving the internet. So I got exposed to a whole lot of things around communication in the early part of my corporate career. So for 20 years, while our kids were growing up, I worked in corporate life, learned a lot about communications. And then, kids grew up a little bit, times changed. I decided to go back to the solar industry and, had the full solar coaster experience, like the craziness of startups and working every night and all that stuff. And it was tons of fun. And we built Solmetric up and we became kind of the leader of test and measurement equipment because we were building on our HP experience. And that's where I met Keith Rose, our CEO, and we grew to like working with each other. So then we sold Solmetric to Vivint, and I stayed on for a little bit there. And one of the things that I was doing as a scientist at Vivint Solar was I was looking at the biggest technical problems. And literally the biggest technical problem they faced was that all these residential solar sites were not connected to the internet reliably. That they had hundreds of thousands of sites all over the country, and they need to monitor them for billing people and for fixing stuff when it goes wrong. And they can't keep them connected to the internet. So at that time, something like 20% of them were disconnected at any one time, and they were just constantly rolling trucks and trying to reconnect things and trying to pay cell modem charges and all this other stuff. And it was a pain. So that's how we formed Operant Networks. I was like, well, this is crazy. We should think of something better. Like, this is not helping solar grow to have to spend all this money. So, that was 4 years ago. And at the time, we went back to, the life I grew up in corporate life, which is academia and research labs with new technologies and turning them into products. And so I ran into some super interesting people at UCLA who are doing cutting edge internet stuff. And, just casually chatting with people in the hallways and found out there was this tech just sitting there that was super cool. And so that's what we built Operant around. There's a whole new kind of networking. And it became the basis of a whole new product line. And what's amazing about this technology, which is invented by some of the pioneers of the internet, the same people that invented TCP/IP, went back more recently and they said, if you had to invent the internet again, how would you do it? And they invented this new technology called name data networking. And we realized that, first of all, nobody wants to replace the internet. It's already there and it works. But there's a huge problem of connecting energy sites to the internet, the one I started thinking about. And so we've taken that super advanced tech and put it in this energy space. But what's super cool about the technology is it doesn't make it more complicated. It makes it a lot more simple. And so we're able to build little field gateways that you can plop onto a solar site and they will connect reliably. They give you all kinds of cybersecurity benefits, and they give you remote visibility into the site without creating cybersecurity holes. So what we've been doing for the last few years is productizing all that kind of in the background under Department of Energy funding. And we're just now, like Scott said, going to take it out to a trade show. And we're going to show
fantastic.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's fantastic. But can you tell us just a little bit of difference between, I think most of us in the solar industry understand monitoring and metering, but you're taking this to an entirely different level. So can you just compare and contrast? This isn't, I'm not monitoring and metering, but I heard you say bi-direction. You didn't say this word, but I kind of heard implied bi-directional control. I mean, tell me a little bit about that and talk about the difference between monitoring and metering.
Yeah, so that's a good point, which is, solar sites originally just started out reporting up how much power they produced, and that was enough for a long time. And, as the industry grew, then utilities had to start controlling sites, and now we're getting a lot more bi-directional command and control kinds of things. And we all know that over time, this is going to spread out to all the sites, and the sites are getting so numerous that this is a very complex problem in networking. The old kind of technology, it's good at connecting point A to point B, and if you only have two things, it works fine. But in the future, we're going to have hundreds of thousands and millions of things to talk to, and it doesn't work fine to build that out of a million one-to-one links.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so now I'm getting a much better picture. So you took this super giant brain of yours and you applied it to something that we as consumers didn't even know we needed. So you have filled, it sounds like you are way out ahead of the curve, because I didn't know I needed this, because my solar system on my home reports up through somewhere in the cloud, and I open my app and I know how much I used, but that's about it. I mean, I know how much I've generated, but that's about it. I don't know how much that compares to how much I've used, whether it's secure. Cybersecurity is like the new buzzword of every day now. And so this sounds like I'm getting excited thinking about it. So you're talking about connecting every single solar array of any size, no matter what it is, all over the world?
Yeah, so one of the exciting things in my mind is that the same kind of cybersecurity and connectivity that utilities can put on these giant utility scale, farms out in the desert, we can bring that down to DG, to DERs, to even residential size connectivity at cost points that are appropriate for that. So what I really like doing is taking a technology that's really advanced, but making it just easy to use. And that's what we're trying to do here. This is all about, people don't really want to know anything about networking or cybersecurity. They just want it to work. We want to do all the work for people, put it in a box and say, solar developer, you got 1,000 things to think about. Here's one less. Just use our thing. So.
Fantastic. So you're going to be in Anaheim next week. Actually, you're going to be in Anaheim at SPI/RE Plus. Now us from the industry are all the old timers. We still call it SPI, but RE Plus in Anaheim, the 19th through the 22nd. You're going to be there. I'll make sure there's a link to the booth so that people will know how to get a hold of it, and you'll be there, right? So we can come and pick that big giant brain of yours.
We're going to have all our technical people there. It'll be a lot of fun. We're all excited to get back in front of people again after years. But oddly, it timed out. We were in stealth mode during the pandemic, and now we're able to come out right at the right time. And so we're really excited to connect to people. We're just at the stage where input from customers is really important. Like our time at Solmetric taught us that solar is like a boots on the ground kind of industry. And we don't, we're not here to like force technology on people. We want them to tell us what would make their life easier. So we're really looking for input. So any size of projects, anybody that's interested, just stop by and chat.
I love it. I will see you next week. But until that time, I see you in person. Have a bright and sunny day, okay?